But some of my earliest memories of Joyce was how much she was the little mother. There were 4 girls, and it went Kathy, the leader, the brain, Connie, the beauty, Joyce, the intellectual, and me, the devil. And and we, she, as well as the rest of us, came from a beauty queen and a country boy, which was really quite a mix. And Nicole was saying about how Joyce would say to her, you know, brains before beauty. We didn't hear that. We heard beauty is the key that opens every door. And then you show them how right you are. So I remember Joyce walking me to school, checking that I had my lunch, you know, finding my lost galoshes. She was just great at things like that. And she was very well liked by friends straight from grade school. One of her grade school friends, John Gordon, sent me an email, and he said that Joyce was charming and delightfully friendly. And isn't that a nice thing to hear about someone? When, as we marched along, we did have a family sport. It was called sibling rivalry. And open combat was allowed. And I'll just give you one vignette from the wars. When I was 7, Joyce got a new bathing suit. She was 15 months old. And, you know, it was aquamarine blue, and it was gorgeous. So I waited until she wasn't around, and I put on the suit, and I marched down the sidewalk to a sprinkler where the kids were gathered, and the boys were playing kickball in the street. And I hear this voice, Lynn Haney, you take off my bathing suit right now. So I did. I handed it to her and said, there, and marched home stark naked. The thing about Joyce was she was unfazed. She won the battle. That's all that mattered. Then another incident of the sibling rivalry was that when Joyce was 12, she won a writing contest. Well, of course, all 4 of us were writers, and so this was a little unnerving. But it was for a movie called Iron Man with a Hollywood hunk named Jeff Chandler. You know, you really have to be on it years to remember the name. Anyway, the prize was something like $25 or $50 and a chance to be on stage with him at the Regent Square Theater in Pittsburgh. And so, you know, just sitting there, the envy I felt about Joyce's moment. Then Joyce joined the Girl Scouts. She was not one of these cookie-pushing Girl Scouts, believe me. You have to picture Joyce marching around the house. She had combat boots up to here, black, heavy, and I think it was Jan Powers, who is a Girl Scout friend of Joyce's, who was here today, who told me that that was because they didn't make outdoor shoes for women then. You had to go to the Army-Navy store. The Girl Scouts sent Joyce to Cuernavaca to represent the United States. As I said, she was a big-time Girl Scout, you know, with the medals dripping on her chest. And so my father had observed her packing, and he liked to stir the pot sometimes. So after she left, I was running around the house saying, where is my girdle? You know, those chastity belts of yesteryear. And he said, your girdle is somewhere in Mexico. So when, the thing that was so good about the Girl Scouts is that they had so much self-confidence, that they were really leaders. And in addition to Jan, she had a good friend named Bev Patton who became her debate partner in high school. And all of Joyce's friends were bright and they were doers. And I think some of it was a result of, you know, sometimes in a class, you get a really good mix of very interesting, creative, bright people, and then in other classes, it's kind of dull. Well, she lucked out because she was in a very good class in the high school and very active in the National Forensic League. I don't know if any of you know, this speaking organization to which all four of us belonged. My three sisters in debate and myself in drama. And, at the table at dinner, I used to, years later I would hear how Rose Kennedy, trained her sons to speak out on issues of politics and world hunger and whatever. And I thought, oh, my sisters could have mopped the floor with the Kennedys. So what was fun about hearing from Joyce's old friends via email, Facebook, etc., was to hear from a friend of hers named Ann Avenatti. And Ann described her, hate, H-A-I-G-H-T, no T, was like Joyce in that, it was like a good politician. There was what was said, what was going on, and then, like a good ward healer, all the things that are really going on. And so they were kind of a subversive element at Sacred Heart High School that needed that component. And I can't tell you about a prank they pulled on the nuns, because it is not fitting for a memorial service. You can ask me later. Joyce went to Pitt on a full tuition scholarship, and I followed 2 years later. And I started to observe Joyce in the library. And I thought, oh, this is worrisome. Because Joyce would be, her head just glued to the book. And so I thought, we have to have a sit down. And, I thought, she's smart in some ways and a little slow in others. And I said, Joyce, the purpose of a university library is to be God. Why do you think they have the stacks? Why do you think you get in line at the reference desk? You talk to the best looking person in the line. Well, what's interesting about Joyce, even though she didn't know the rudiments of feminine wiles, she still got men. And one of them was Dick Mellon, the scion to the Pittsburgh family. And during that phase, Joyce was a little hard to take because she would go up to Rolling Rock, the Mellons' estate, and she became very la-di-da. She had to condescend to her humble beginnings on Hillsborough Avenue. So then when she was a junior at Pitt, she won a highly competitive award that was sponsored by the Irish Room at Pitt to go over to Dublin and study James Joyce's literature. And while she was there, she was invited to sit in Princess Grace's box at the Dublin Horse Show, which was wonderful. But it was a torrential rain, and Princess Grace didn't come, and Joyce fell in a mud puddle. But, she had that intrepid spirit, that she got out of the mud and went anyway. I've often thought that Joyce got her outdoorsy side to her personality from my father, who, would hunt pheasants and deer, and, he grew vegetables, and he just loved nature. But also, she had health difficulties when she was little. You don't see it in the picture of the four girls, that's on the screen when we're standing on the steps of a church. But Joyce was cross-eyed until she was about 6 or 7. And that was hard, because there was a tremendous amount of worry about whether her eyes would straighten out. And that plus the asthma. I think that a lot of this Girl Scout business and marching around the house was a defiance of something that was in her consciousness all the time. Maybe not all the time, but a good part of the time. when Joyce became a senior, she started taking Mandarin Chinese, and she went on this kick of, that we really, the West is history, old, new history. We have to go back to the East. And so she brought home an incense burner. So, you picture an Irish-American family assembled around their lace tablecloth, sitting there, and we had to burn this incense to our ancestors in the Emerald Isle. Well, we used to joke, Joyce can't go to the bathroom without picking up a grant. And this turned out to be true. She had full boat to the University of Hawaii, and she went down there, and and it was just so liberating to get out of Pittsburgh, to get in good weather, to see, the beautiful air and sunshine, and and she bought a motor scooter and had a great time and became friends with Marcia Ristiano, who just through thick and thin over the years has been one of Joyce's best friends. And I'm so sorry she isn't here today, but she has written a book about a Jesuit priest who helped a lot of the Chinese during the rape of Nanking, and it's going to be made into a movie, so Marcia's over in China right now. So then Joyce went on to MIT. And at MIT, she got a beautiful apartment on Commonwealth Avenue, with tall ceilings, and she found so many, she loved MIT because of the mix of such interesting, creative, forward-thinking people. And she had a boyfriend named Joe. Joe was designing one of the early designs for the interior of the astronaut's cabinet. And Joe was Egyptian. So Mother called this Egyptian genius the rug salesman. Joyce, for her thesis, wrote a play about the comfort station in Boston and all the disputes about where to locate the comfort station. And as you know from the Big Dig, Boston's got a lot of location problems. And so then she got a job with Daniel Patrick Moynihan, the four-term senator from New York. Well, Joyce and Moynihan were two peas in a pod. And Joyce has had her office right outside his office, and of course would hear all the conversations. And she was like the downstage narrator in a play where he would be having, the bartenders and the bricklayers from South Boston, and then Moynihan would do his working class act. And then his buddies from Harvard would come over, and then Moynihan would be the ultimate worldly sophisticate. And so Joyce would be on the phone to me. I was working in Washington, commenting on all this. In the next stage of her life, she was in New York. She was in the Upper West Side. I was on the Upper East Side. So that meant that the clothes flew back and forth. This was the late 60s, and it was the age of the mini and the micro mini, which was sometimes the, oh my God, mini. And Joyce did not like the idea that I borrow something and then hike it up a lot. And, she said, I can't work as a city planner looking like a hooker. So I won an award during this period from the New York Times, and an editor called Joyce to write a little mini bio of me to put up on the staff bulletin board. Joyce, this really kills me to this day. Joyce resurrects this mutual trade agreement, which I wrote up when I was 12 years old about borrowing clothes. And it was witnessed by and signed by both our parents. But I thought I was writing it in legalese language. But I would say things like forthwith and from this day forward, etc. But it was henceforth, and all should know, and it would be N-O and things like that. And so they have this letter up there, right there. So I confronted her, and I said, "You embarrass me." And of course, anybody who knows Joyce, she always had an answer. She said, "Just remember, Lynn, when you march down the aisle to get the Pulitzer Prize, I'm the one who loaned you the shoes." So I want to flash forward a couple decades, and in 2012, after our daughter went to the Olympics in rowing, we were visiting Joyce and Jack, and we were riding in the car, and my husband John was musing out loud. He said, "You know, I know where Sarah gets her athletic attributes from my side of the family, but I can't figure out where does she get her competitive nature." Jack Williams slowed down the car, turned to John and said, "Have you ever met the Haney girls?" So, you know, I'm really happy that we lived long enough to outlive a lot of those rivalries and really, you know, just be so proud of each other, as I am with my sister Kathy, who's here today. You know, I mean, it was wonderful to have them as sisters. And I know, like many of you in this room, I miss her so much.